Originally, when I started the script, I was just going to review Thor Love and Thunder, but the more I kept on diving into it, the more negative things I had to say than positive. And I didn't want my very first review to be like that, especially when at the end of the day, it wasn't a bad movie. It just didn't meet my expectations, especially when I found out early on who the main villain was and Natalie Portman making a return to the franchise. That, adding to the fact that the longer I took reworking the script, the more amount of movies that kept dropping, I then made the executive decision to instead do a 4-movie review. So here we are, doing a 4-piece, just like the title says. So I'm going to tackle what I liked and what I didn't like about each one. Simple, straightforward, and painfully honest. Running at just 2 hours including credits, Thor Love and Thunder is a medley of Jason Aaron's run on Thor, God of Thunder, while combining a couple older elements and storylines and amalgamating them all into Taika Waititi's vision for the cosmic space Viking. The good, Chris Hemsworth's portrayal of Thor, as we've seen in the 10 plus years of the MCU, we've got to see him be humbled, surprised, hurt again, depressed, so on and so forth. But to me, there's always been a level of progression that's very rare to see with these MCU characters. And couple that with the fact that he's been living however many years fictionally as a god, it's kind of amazing to see Chris Hemsworth come to this role and not bring the same things to the potluck each and every time. And I also love Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, with her amounts of dry wit and bubbly personality that she brings to her dual identity as both a regent diplomat and a warrior. I also adore Natalie Portman's Mighty Thor costume and how comic book accurate it is, the way that she utilizes Mjolnir through her battles. That's something that I've seen only in the movies and not even in the comic books, so hats off to whoever came up with that. Alright, moving on to the CGI. Like, some people complained about Natalie Portman's CGI, but no. It was Thor's that did it for me. Even though it was on the screen for no more than 30 seconds, was the most distracting and ugly thing in the entire film. And I saw it in the trailer when it came out in May, and I hope to God that they would have fixed it in post or added some more editing or something, but no, it's just as ugly as I first saw it. Second is the underutilization of Christian Bale's gore. Yes, I wanted him to look different, but that's not the problem. In fact, his performance is great. He captures the menace and determination of a scorned father who devoted his life to the gods that didn't deserve his loyalty or his love. See what I did there? My main problem with this version of Gore is that he's supposed to be the God Butcher, a cosmic level serial killer, going from planet to planet, murdering the deities of the universe. And aside from the first kill in the movie, we don't really see him do much. I mean, allegedly we see glimpses of his victims on the Milano when they're looking at crime scenes, but we don't really see him do no butchering. That's my main problem. To me, as it stands in the film, he is a god murderer. We only see him take one life. What Gore was about it. He had that Black Air Force energy, and that's what I was hoping would be brought to the table. And honestly, it was a letdown for me. And now that I've got that out of the way, I can now cleanse my nerd palate and move on. Next on the chopping block is The Black Phone. Coming in a little bit over an hour and a half, not including the credits. I would be a complete liar if I didn't tell you that this movie lied to me, okay? Slight point of digression. For those of you who don't know, there's a lot that goes into movie marketing. There's a campaign for each and every movie, especially if it comes out in theaters. And for most movies, there's a pre-screening. And reviews, they weigh a lot into public opinion on whether people see the movie or not. And these are some of the reviews that got me to want to see the movie, because I'm a huge horror buff. And I watched the movie only to realize that it was all cap. Like working at Lids cap. Like Colin Kaepernick cap. Let's start with the good. Madeline McGraw's Gwen absolutely steals the show, and I shan't be debating it in the comments. As for Mason Thames, who plays the reluctant protagonist, he does so exceedingly well throughout the film. As for his friend, Robin, played by Miguel Cazares Mora, well, he has more character within his 3 scenes than the rest of the cast did, excluding Best Girl Gwen, combined. Ethan Hawke, who plays the Grabber, which, first off, is a complete crap name for a villain, but I'm in the nice section of my script. His character is immediately dislikable, which for a villain is a good thing. He also plays a slightly more complex character through the use of his white masks, which have both a scowl and grin variation, which showcases the range of his personalities that he's wrestling in between, which I guess is an interesting visual tool that might go over some people's head. But I think it's an interesting juxtaposition when pursed with the title Black Phone. Take all that and compare it to the real life comparisons between John Wayne Gacy, and it really makes for a creepy air of atmosphere anytime he's on screen. Yep. That's about everything I have nice to say about the film. Alright, moving on to what I don't like. The dad, who apparently moonlights as a librarian because you have to be a church mouse to live with that drunk. And then there's the abrupt ass whooping scene, which honestly for me, as a child who grew up in a household with corporal punishment, was extremely triggering. I didn't even know white folks got down like that. But that's neither here nor there. I just thought that it added 0 to the narrative. I mean, I get it. He's supposed to be a bad dad. We're not supposed to like him. Checkmark, moving on. The use of the black phone. There was one scene in particular where it's the training scene and he uses the phone and has the conversation with the ghost. And I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't you need the phone to hear them? What's going on? It's on speaker now? Alright, I'm gonna let that slide. The last bad thing I'm gonna say about this movie is how many characters it has in it. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes you need it to make the world feel lived in, but it doesn't utilize them the way it's supposed to. Like, there are some characters in here that have 0 point. I mean, alright, take Finney's crush for instance. She literally doesn't add anything to the story. She's a flat 2-dimensional character that offers nothing. Even when he goes missing, she just looks downward toward the screen and that's it. Like, she could have been looking at some kid's sketches for all we know. And then there's the 2 bumbling detectives who literally walk into the killer's house. And instead of taking the person who wanted to give them as much information as possible and hearing him out, they dismiss him, all because he likes a little bit of booger sugar. I mean, come on. Don't be judgmental cops. Anyways, I'm not going to go any deeper than that for time constraint reasons. We now have us a straightforward action comedy thriller in the Brad Pitt movie Bullet Train. Marking it at just over 2 hours including credits. Of all the things that I loved about this movie, I don't know whether to start with the action, the characters, or the comedy. So I think I'll start with the funny bit, because the running joke that really hit home for me as a child who grew up on Thomas the Tank Engine was, just that. And I think that it really hits, especially if you're somebody who grew up in the UK, where it originated. I enjoy the ridiculous amount of rogues that are in this movie, and it gives me a sort of Sin City feel, where you get to wonder who's popping up next. And I'm not even going to spoil the amount of amazing cameos in this movie, but you should go watch it. I'll let you witness that firsthand, because there are some people who are enjoyable to watch, even when it's them dying. On to the bad. Okay, so this is gonna sound weird, but the main character, Brad Pitt, who leads the movie, I don't like him. It's hard for me to say because he exceeds and performs where he needs to, delivering the amount of humor and presence that an actor of his caliber should. But at the same time, it's the character that he's playing and embodying that I really do not like. He's the living embodiment of the song, "Don't Push Me, 'Cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head." I don't like the reluctant hero characters because they make for a really bad time in my opinion. I've seen it done before, I executed perfectly, and this ain't it. He's one of those characters that has a problem with what he has to do until he has to do it, and then he gets it done anyways. And it's like, bro, why are you complaining about it in the first place? His character is equally insufferable, but also somewhat likable depending on your worldview and beliefs. The character The Prince, played by Joey King, who you may recognize from Tween Trilogy Kissing Booth fame, she's probably the most insufferable character within this roster. And I actually screamed in the theater at the time, and I quote, "This bitch has got to go!" Because at that time in the movie, she had well overstayed her welcome, especially when so many before her had been cast aside and killed unceremoniously. But the only other bad thing I can say about this film is that the accents are a little bit off, and that's not my opinion. I actually, as soon as I came out of this movie, because I really did enjoy it, I tried to see if there was a sequel, and that just happened to be one of the things I read in a review. And kind of leaving it, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Let me know what you think in the comments. How are the accents? Are they on point or nah? Last but certainly not least is the movie Prey. Now, see, what makes this movie different from the rest of them, over an hour and 40 minutes including credits, this movie is the only one that wasn't in theaters. It was exclusively streamed for Hulu, so if you don't have access to that, or access to somebody who does have access to that, then you are out of luck, legally speaking. All my One Piece niggas know what I'm talking about. Anyways, straight away, this movie is amazing. Starting off with the main character, Naru, doing everything in her power to rise up in her tribe and prove that she's a capable warrior, just like her brother, Tabe, played by Amber Midthunder and Dakota Beavers respectively. Everybody's acting in this film is A1, especially considering its historical backdrop within the sci-fi horror setting that is a Predator movie. I was honestly taken away. There is a scene in here where everybody speaks French, and even 10 months of Duolingo couldn't help me with that. This movie delivers an excellent amount of action as well as beautiful pacing. Right from the jump, we get into the action, and there's a sort of dual storyline that goes on from both Naru's perspective and the Predators. We get to see them go from one tier of their character to another tier, and eventually meet face to face, or face to Yautja mask, as it were. It's dope to see both of them showcase their expertise and adaptability. As for the bad, there's really nothing I can say about it, and that's saying something, considering me, who thinks he's an expert after taking one film class. I really don't have much to say, except for how this movie retroactively changes the previous canon lore of the Predator mythos. That's literally it. Yeah, this was a satisfying movie. It's my favorite one on the list, easily. And with that, we're done. This has been my 4-piece movie review. I haven't done one of these before at all, so let me know how I do. This is new territory for me entirely, and I can't get better at it without your help. So like and subscribe if you like this, and follow me on Instagram by the same name as the channel. And as per usual, peace, positivity, and prosperity.